Visit to Mauritius. Traditional Geet Gawai welcome for the Prime Minister. He also meets the President of Mauritius. Says Mauritius a key partner in Indian Ocean. Big attack on Pakistan passenger train. Baluch militants open fire, claim 100 hostages. Pakistan security forces, doctors on board the train, which was going from Quetta to Peshawar. Crucial United States-Ukraine meeting underway in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. U.S. State Secretary Marco Rubio, NSA Waltz lead the talks with Kyiv, focus on negotiating end to the Ukraine war. Alpine announce Khushmani as reserve driver for Formula One. Khushmani, Alpine Formula One team test driver. We are starting the broadcast with this news which is coming in from Pakistan. The militant group Balochistan Liberation Army has claimed taking control of a passenger train and have kept hundreds of passengers hostage. They have in fact released a statement saying that 6 Pakistani military personnel have reportedly been killed. According to the reports, the Jafar Express with over 400 passengers on board with 9 bogies was on its way from Quetta in Pakistan's southwestern Balochistan province to Peshawar in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa when it was fired upon. The BLA fighters blew the railway tracks and forced the train to stop, after which they boarded the train. While the militant group is claiming to have left Baloch women, children and other civilians, it is still reportedly holding on active service personnel from Pakistani military, police, ATF and even the spy agency ISI. In a statement signed by its spokesperson Zainat Baloch, the BLA has said hostages will be killed if Pakistan launches any operation to rescue them. My colleague Vishnu Shom now joins us with more details on this. Vishnu, what's the latest, any official, in fact, confirmation coming in from the Pakistani government in this matter?
Well, I think you've pretty much summarized what the latest situation is, Ankit, at this stage. What I can tell you is that in terms of the number of people who remain potential hostages on this train, the Jafar Express, which was it was bound for Peshawar from Quetta, the numbers vary from 120 to 500. There are some reports which suggest that there has been a Pakistan Army counteraction, which has been repelled apparently by the hostages, who claim that 10 Pakistani soldiers have been killed. Now remember, information from these areas extremely sketchy. We'll need to wait to see what the Pakistani government actually says at the highest levels. But irrespective of this, if you've got a situation where a large train has been hijacked with so many people who have been kidnapped, who are being held hostages at this stage, it is a matter of huge crisis. Now this said, this would be the latest attack that has taken place in Baloch areas. The Baloch Liberation Army, which has been fighting for independence in that area because of what they say has been marginalization by the government of Pakistan, the creation of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, among other reasons. They have been involved in several attacks. There have been attacks on coal mines, there have been attacks on the Pakistan Army. Repeatedly, hundreds of people have lost their lives. But in this particular case, there would be innocent people, civilians, women and children who are potentially hostage as well. So we would hope that there is a release sooner than later.
Right. So Vishnu Shom, in fact, giving us that information coming in from Pakistan. Vishnu, very quickly for the benefit of our viewers, could you also just tell us the BLA, Pakistan designates it as a terror organization, a militant group, from how long have they been active? Because they have also taken part in other terror attacks in Pakistani soil.
Well, I did explain just now that there have been several attacks which have taken place in the Baloch area. The Baloch Liberation Army has been blamed for a large number of them. Hundreds of Pakistani soldiers have been killed. The Balochistan region is particularly restive. There have been problems in Balochistan for several decades. As I mentioned, it is an issue of marginalization. It is an issue of who controls the economic resources. There are concerns about the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor as well. The Baloch Liberation Army has emerged as a force of independence, but there have been frequent clashes with the Pakistani armed forces. These attacks have been stepped up significantly in the last 5 years or so, but very often, as we have seen, and on this case as well, there are innocents who are caught in between. Those hostages on this train, the numbers are between 120 to 500. Many of them would possibly be women and children.
Right. Thank you so much, Vishnu Shom, for joining us. In fact, the statement, at least from the Balochistan Liberation Army, says that all women and children have been released. Only active army and security forces personnel are at this moment taken hostage by them. Moving on, Saeed Ilahi is a former minister in Pakistan. He's joining us at this moment. So thank you for speaking to us. Let me, in fact, first ask you, sir, that all right, let's just try and understand at this moment what is happening as far as this entire attack is concerned. What is the official position from the government? Is there an operation which has been launched to try and rescue the hostages?
First of all, as you have mentioned in your program, this is a typical incident of terrorism where the innocent people were taken hostage and a human shield was formed against any action from the armed forces. So BLA is a terrorist organization, even declared by Americans, EU, and different other organizations and countries. So BLA is basically based in different areas like Afghanistan, Iran, and Pakistan border. So as the area in Balochistan is very tough area, hilly and mountain area, huge area, so they have places to hide and attack. Because guerrilla warfare is, is more easier than a regular war. So that's how the BLA is operating from last many years. And government of Pakistan and armed forces are trying to face them and fix them. Even in this incident, as you told, was an incident of cowardice. I mean, like hostages and children and women and passengers and so on. But I think government of Pakistan has decided to take a strict action, and there will be no leniency shown to terrorists, although they have support across the border, but they will have to be eliminated. And especially, I think now the time has come for government of Pakistan to start an operation which was being held in Balochistan, and there was only repulsion or even reaction on the attacks. But I think now it is a time to start an action to eliminate those terrorists.
Right. Can I ask you, these actions have been going on for a very long time. There is also a sense that all this is happening because of the marginalization and the way the Baluchi people have been treated, by the security forces and the government of Pakistan. Is there a sense that, this is only going to escalate the violence in this area? This is not the first attack. They have repeatedly targeted security forces in Pakistan.
In fact, this is not true that they are being marginalized because, the Balochistan province is full of different minerals and treasures. So the local sardars, local people who have monopoly and hold on the resources and the area, and people are illiterate. There were 3 operations conducted in Balochistan. First was in Mr. Bhutto's time, but when Mr. Zia came, he released all the Nawabs and Jagirdars and the Sardars and the chiefs who again came into the areas. And second operation was taken in General Musharraf's time. So no operation was completed because of different political reasons and political dialogue. But I think the main reason is that Balochistan is a huge area, underdeveloped, illiterate, controlled by the chiefs and tribes.
But
so
whose responsibility was it, if you allow me to ask, to develop that? Because that is one of the charge against the Pakistani government, that a lot of resources are pulled in from Balochistan, but the people of Balochistan do not derive the similar benefit that mainland Pakistanis do.
That's also an issue because the funds and the development amounts are given to the chiefs. Because in Balochistan, because of the tribal system, the budget is allocated and is given to the chiefs for development, which they don't do. And either they make corruption or they don't, it doesn't have a trickle-down effect to a normal person. So the system is a tribal system where these difficulties and problems are existing, and the chiefs and the sardars who are, getting benefit of having budget and also supporting BLA for their own benefits.
Let me ask you this then. At this moment, what we know is that security personnel, those who are on leave, have been taken hostage as far as this operation of BLA is concerned. More than 100 is the number which they are quoting. Is there going to be a deal with the Pakistani government on this?
I think there is, in the past and even now, there will be no deal with the terrorists, not at all. And they have to be eliminated, they will be eliminated because the same way we are retaliating on the Afghan border, where all terrorist organizations of the world, ISIS, Daesh, all are based in Afghanistan, and Pakistan is the only country who is facing terrorism and trying to control them and hold them so they do not spread all over the world.
But the view of a lot of people also would be, and let me also bring in Harsh Pant, Vice President ORF, who's joining us at this moment. Harsh, yes, there is it's a difficult time for people, those who have been taken hostage, but the fact also remains that while the former minister says that Pakistan is facing terrorism, Pakistan has been accused of being a safe sanctuary and a state which harbors terrorism. Time and again for various countries. India is also a victim of that. Is there now a sense that, Pakistan, the kind of nurturing and the environment that was given to these extremist elements is biting Pakistan on its back?
See, certainly I think Pakistan's friends and Pakistan's well-wishers and even Pakistan's adversaries have often said that, look, if you use terrorism as an instrument of state policy, then it will come back and bite you. And I think in some ways, if you look around Pakistan today, there is an enormous challenge, and that challenge has to be now dealt with by Pakistanis themselves, because it is, of course, what the minister is saying, is right, that the brunt will be borne by ordinary Pakistanis. And this is going to be, of course, a challenge for Pakistan and for the region. So certainly the policy that used to be Pakistan's state policy of using terrorism against other states has backfired in ways that is now coming back to haunt ordinary Pakistanis in ways that are quite unprecedented. And quite, I think, it has the potential to destabilize not only Pakistan, but the entire region. So certainly, I think the world will be looking very carefully and is looking very carefully at what's happening and how Pakistani state deals with it.
Mr. Elahi, let me ask you this on this very note, because, just last week, the World Terror Index report came out, and Pakistan continuously remains at number 2 for the last 5 years, just behind Burkina Faso, as the kind of terror activities which are taking place in Pakistan. TTP has emerged as the fastest growing terror group. Is there a worry within the Pakistani society as well that, these kind of groups who found safe harbor in Pakistan at one point of time, in fact, it has become a problem for Pakistan to deal with?
I think I would like to correct you, because all these terrorist groups are never based in Pakistan. They're always based in Afghanistan and Iran border. They have never been based in Pakistan. So whenever they are in Pakistan, they are hit and killed, and they are smashed. That's why even now, from last many months, Pakistani army and forces are fighting against terrorists on Afghan border, and they are not being allowed to enter into Pakistan. And another thing I want to tell you, my friend, that even in Balochistan, the whole terrorism network was developed by a raw officer who is still in jail in Pakistan, Mr. Kalboshan. So they had 400 or 500 people arrested with him. So these are, Pakistan is a victim. And if you say that we have centuries, that was wrong. Because we have already and always been fighting against terrorism.
Just the Indian government accusing Pakistan of very well documented fact, not only from India, but across the globe, including USA and in the United Nations as well, where groups like TTP, LET, all of them have found their base in Pakistan. The problem is that Pakistan's, entire modus, the military, complex of Pakistan using terrorism as a state policy, that now seems to have been completely exploding in Pakistan's face, and possibly a rework in its policies need to be seen if Pakistan wants peace within its own border. But I thank you for joining me at this moment. Thanks also to Harsh for being with us at this moment. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, to Mauritius, where Prime Minister Narendra Modi is on a two-day visit to the island nation. Prime Minister also met the President of Mauritius in Port Louis. He also paid homage to, in fact, Mauritius' founding father. Prime Minister Modi is visiting the island nation at the invitation of the Mauritius counterpart to attend the island nation's 57th National Day celebrations as the guest of honor. Prime Minister gifted the Gangajal from Maha Kumbh to the President of Mauritius. He is also expected to address members of the Indian diaspora, which make up to 70% of the Mauritius population. Remember, they trace their roots to India. During the Prime Minister's visit, there are several important pacts providing for cooperation in areas of capacity building, trade and tackling of cross-border financial crimes will be inked. Prime Minister Modi will also attend the island nation's National Day celebrations as the chief guest.
The two-day visit of Prime Minister to Mauritius has started today, with Prime Minister Modi arriving early morning in Mauritius at around 6:15 and was greeted by Prime Minister Navinchandra Ramgoolam with around 200 dignitaries who came to the airport to receive him. When he came to the hotel, Indian diaspora was there. They welcomed him with loud cheers and sloganeering. After that, Prime Minister visited the botanical garden here, which also has the burial site of two of its top leaders, one being the Hijacked Ramgoolam, who is also considered as the founding father of Mauritius, and his contemporary and ex-president Anirudh Jagannath. So after laying wreath to these two gentlemen at their burial site, the Prime Minister went to the President's house to meet the President of Mauritius, and after that, Prime Minister has also is going to address the Indian community at a convention center. The highlight of this visit is going to be the maritime security and MOUs for checking financial fraud, and a very key MOU between the Enforcement Directorate back there in India and the Financial Crime Prevention Unit of the Mauritian Police will have this MOU to stop financial fraud. As far as the maritime security and trade is concerned, it is being reported from the local media as well as from the External Affairs Ministry that both the countries are going to sign an MOU to gather intelligence, gather data, gather reports on ocean engineering and about the maritime surveillance. Now, these MOUs will not only strengthen Indo-Mauritian ties, but will also strengthen Mauritius' own military and maritime security in the region. Mauritius also happens to be one of the key partners for its geostrategic location in the Indian Ocean region. This is the country where Prime Minister came last time in 2015 in his first tenure as Prime Minister, and announced the vision of Sagar, security and growth for all, signifying that how India treats its small neighbors as well and takes them along. Right now, I'm here at Port Louis, the city of Port, as we call it, the capital city of Mauritius. This is where that back in 1830s, the first wave of migrants who were also called indentured laborers, who were brought here by the Britishers for sugar plantation. And that is when you find that 70% of the current population of Mauritius happens to be of Indian origin, because out of all those immigrants who came from different countries, it was from India which formed the largest component of that entire indentured laborers, and from India as well as states from Bihar, Bengal, as well as Tamil Nadu were the states from where most of these laborers came over to Mauritius in 1830s. And we also have this Pravasi Ghat, a port, a museum here to commemorate, to kind of recall the struggle and chronicle the stories of those immigrants who came over here, settled in Mauritius and built their lives. In Mauritius, camera person Atul Raj, Mohammed Ghazali for NDTV.
All right, with that, we are slipping into a very short break, coming back with many and other stories from across the globe. Stay tuned.
At AJ Bell, we're all about making investing easy. It's why Which rate no other investment platform higher for ease of use. Open an award-winning account today.
OK, we know this isn't your dog. If this were your dog, he'd want you to know he was upset with you last night when you were watching TV at full volume. You didn't hear him whining, and he was devastated. All he wanted was tummy rubs and for you to get a hearing test.
Book a free hearing test today at bootshearingcare.com. And now get up to £399 off the latest technology. Boots, with you for life.
Ladies and gentlemen, Britain hasn't been so great of late because the country hasn't been eating enough Weetabix.
Makes sense. I've been eating croissants.
To whoever's in charge of fixing potholes, VAR, and drivers who park like this, we must say, have you had your Weetabix?
Now I'm retired, I can spend more time with my grandson. I'm proud of him and want to help any way I can. Which reminds me.
Welcome to British Seniors, the UK's #1 rated provider of over 50s life insurance.
Hi, I'd like a quick quote.
No problem. We're proud to offer our seniors lifetime guarantee. With 100% of claims having been paid, we guarantee your premiums will never go up and that you'll speak to one of our specialists in the UK.
Well, that's good to know.
UK residents aged 50 to 80 are guaranteed to be accepted. Depending on your age, your loved ones can get a cash payout up to £10,000.
And that money can help with my funeral costs or even be used as a gift. I'll do it.
Plus, when you sign up, you'll receive a £135 gift card and free 24/7 GP advice and health services.
Thanks, Mum, for everything.
Be proud to protect your loved ones with British Seniors. To get a free quote today, call our UK team on 0800 158 552 or visit britishseniors.co.uk.
AI scientist, and some would even call him a rock star in the AI space.
We definitely need AI for is to unlock some of the mysteries of nature.
As someone who is an AI scientist, what is your goal?
Our civilization is facing a number of sort of challenges, and I think this is where AI comes into the picture.
Will this replace most jobs?
The new generation of AI models is that they have cognitive ability.
From interesting tech startups to industry-leading companies, politics, sports, culture, curry, cricket. Oh, there's so much to talk about. Like me, if you too thrive on interesting conversations, this is a show you cannot miss. Watch this space to know more about all matters and all people that make Britain what it is today. Out of Britain, with me, Radhika Iyer.
Welcome back. The interim government of Bangladesh is set to introduce a new law aimed at recovering funds laundered from the country. Chief Advisor Mohammad Yunus had urged for an expedited effort to reclaim billions of dollars which were laundered through the banking system and other illicit channels. The announcement was made during a crucial meeting with the 11-member task force which was set up in September last year. In a briefing, the press secretary to Yunus confirmed the law would be drafted within the coming week to support the recovery process. According to the data presented at the meeting by the Bangladesh Bank, at least 75 to 100 billion US dollars has been stolen from Bangladesh through financial sector fraud, corruption and irregularities in government contracts. All the stolen money has primarily been laundered to tax haven offshore countries including the US, United Kingdom, Canada and several other countries. India has informed the United Nations Security Council it has discussed various matters with Taliban regime, emphasizing special people-to-people ties as the foundation of the current engagement with Afghanistan. India's permanent representative to the United Nations, Ambassador Parvatini Harish, shared during a meeting of the United Nations Assistance Mission in Afghanistan that India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri met Afghanistan's acting Foreign Minister Maulvi Amir Khan Muttaqi in Dubai in January. This was the highest level meeting between India and the Taliban since they took control of Kabul in 2021. As Japan observes the 14th anniversary of the devastating 2011 earthquake and tsunami that struck the country's northeast, experts have raised concern about the seismic activity in an underwater trench of the Hokkaido, warning that if it could signal another powerful earthquake. A 5-year study of the Shishima Trench, located about 150 kilometers off the east coast of Hokkaido, reveals the tectonic plates there are not sliding past one another as expected. Instead, sections of the plates appear to be stuck together, and when they eventually break free, it could release a massive amount of seismic energy. All right, that's all the time that we have in this edition. News and updates will continue here on NDTV World. Stay tuned.
From tech titan to global philanthropist, Bill Gates has had a huge impact on the lives of millions across the world. As the co-founder of Microsoft, he's in a sense defined what personal computing has been for all of us. The vision that he had of the personal computer way back in the 70s and its evolution and the transformation of Microsoft has been fundamental in terms of tech, in terms of IT, in terms of the entire sector. And it's time now for Mr. Gates to pen his thoughts down, which is why he's come out with this. This is the first of 3 books. It's called Source Code, My Beginnings, and it's my great privilege to be over here in Palm Springs, in California, to speak about this. Thank you, and I'm delighted to be over here, fly all the way across the world, and I've had a chance to really go through this book. It's very, very interesting.
Thank you.
One of the primary themes which I found throughout the book has to do with your own intensity. The fact that you've always been driven. I mean, we know that as a fact, but we perhaps didn't know about the extent to which you were focused. And you write, for example, and I quote, "Like one of those watertight hatches on a submarine, I could shut out the rest of the world. Driven by the sense of responsibility I felt for Microsoft, I had closed the hatch door and locked the wheel. No girlfriend, no hobbies. My social life centered around Paul, Rick, and the people we worked with. It was the one way I knew to stay ahead." Could you tell us about how your focus ultimately resulted in you being the Bill Gates we know today?
Well, part of my makeup, even from a young age, was that if something was fascinated, I could really dig in on it. So, you know, learning to play cards with my grandmother, having books read to me, reading books, and mathematics early on fascinated me, and so I went into depth. But then I took that to a new level when I started Microsoft, because I knew, you know, there'd be other people trying to do software, and I decided, no, I'm going to make sure we stay ahead. I was always kind of worried somebody else would do well. And so during my 20s, I was really monomaniacal, not only using that ability to focus, but kind of making sure that software was the only thing that I focused on.
Ten days since the dramatic Oval Office clash that upended United States-Ukraine ties, meeting between top officials from both sides is now underway in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio is leading the United States delegation for the talks with Ukrainian officials on ways to end the 3-year long war between Russia and Ukraine. Saudi Arabia's National Security Advisor and Foreign Minister sat at the head of the table. United States Secretary of State Marco Rubio is sitting next to National Security Advisor of United States Mike Waltz. On the Ukrainian side, top aide of President Volodymyr Zelensky, among others. In fact, Ukrainian President Zelensky is in Saudi Arabia. He arrived on Monday for talks with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, but is not part of the talks with United States officials. All right, let me at this moment bring in my guest to discuss this further. Can this possibly be the light at the end of the tunnel? How difficult are these negotiations going to be? Professor Andrew Latham, author and Professor of International Relations at the Macalester College in the United States, is joining us at this moment. Olena Trigger, former Director, Ministry of Economic Development and Trade of Ukraine, is also with us. Thank you so much to both of you for speaking to us. Professor Latham, let me understand this from you. First talks with Russia, then with Ukraine, both separately, and that too after the dramatic showdown that took place in White House between the head of the states of America and Ukraine. How hopeful are you as far as these talks are concerned?
Optimism of the spirit and pessimism of the will, I suppose, is how I would put it. Guardedly optimistic might be another way of putting it. Look, this is a Trumpian version of Nixon's shuttle diplomacy. The United States is the mediator. It's clear that these two parties, Russia and Ukraine, can't be in the same room at the moment talking about these things. So whereas in the 70s, Nixon and Kissinger were flying all over the place. Now they have everybody flying to Riyadh or Jeddah to have these discussions. Necessary first step. Having said that, though, and the idea here is to find out where the red lines are. What Russia, last month, Ukraine today, are willing to concede, and where their red lines are, what they're not willing to concede, and see if there's some overlap there, which would be the foundations for the context within which one might negotiate in the short term a ceasefire, but in the longer term some kind of frozen conflict. So that's where we are. I think, though, and just to wrap this up very quickly, there are real differences between what Russia wants and what Ukraine is willing to accept. And I don't see an easy way forward on this.
Yeah. You know, while Russia and Ukraine may find it hard to be on the same table at this moment to try and discuss any sort of long-term peace or stability solutions, but the relations between Ukraine and United States have also taken a dramatic turn under President Donald Trump. Should this also be seen as some sort of thaw between that relationship, at least a working relationship in which Ukraine and United States can agree on the way forward?
Well, there's two things going on here. One of which is that President Trump really sees President Zelensky as the problem here, as the impediment to any kind of peace. I'm not saying he's right, but that's the way he sees it. And so he's put a full court press on, pausing military aid, suspending intelligence sharing. He really wants to twist Zelensky's arm to get him to the table. The bigger picture is, under Trump, the U.S. wants out of Europe. And to get out of Europe, it needs to solve this, end this war, first of all. The U.S. under Trump wants to disentangle itself from Europe. The Europeans can look after European security, and it wants to use an overused term, pivot, not to the Middle East, because they want out of there as well, but to the Indo-Pacific and to deal with the challenge of China. And so if you really want to focus your resources, time, energy, attention, and military, soft power, hard power resources on China, you got to get out of Europe, and you got to get out of the Middle East.
Olena, let me ask you this. Given the tension between what recently transpired between Donald Trump and President Zelensky, the military aid has been stopped from the United States. Is there a sense that Ukraine is being pushed in a corner to come onto this table, and that may not yield the kind of results that possibly any other peace negotiation could have seen?
Well, absolutely. The pressure is enormous, and U.S. has been the biggest military partner of Ukraine. And this sudden turn, of course, was shocking for everybody in Ukraine, including Zelensky, as you can witness from his meeting in the White House. However, Ukraine has options because only 1/3 of assistance comes from the US. Ukraine also provides its own weapons, makes its own weapons. The other third is made in Europe. So Ukraine is looking for options right now and trying to demonstrate to US that we are still partners and we both want peace. Definitely, Ukraine is not in position to completely move away from US at this point.
Does this, conversation which is taking place at this moment in Jeddah, Olena, does it pave the way for possible future, conversations, or at least Ukraine, Russia, and United States sitting together on a negotiating table, or is that a very long way ahead?
We think it is a much longer way ahead. However, we think that today's meeting will be good for Ukraine. We think that we will be able to reestablish dialogue with the United States, and from there we will move forward. Basically, sooner or later, Trump will understand that Putin is making up some conditions which can never be fulfilled on purpose, so that there will be no peace, because he's not genuinely interested in peace. And Ukraine needs just to wait and be patient to see this moment happening for Trump. This is what the common opinion here in Ukraine is.
Professor Latham, let me ask you this then, because at least on the face of it, the president of Ukraine, Mr. Zelensky, has also said that he wants lasting peace. So has Vladimir Putin in Russia. Do you believe both these sides are truly ready for peace talks, or it is just a strategic maneuver right now to try and gain some sort of tactical advantage?
I think, unfortunately, Ukraine is on the back foot here. It's running out of options. President Zelensky has already said he's willing to concede some territory, not formally and legally, but in the short to medium term. He's already kind of given up on the NATO membership thing, which was never going to happen anyway, because NATO membership rules say if you have disputed borders, you can't join NATO. That was always a non-starter. But he does want some security guarantees, right, which the Europeans, the French and the British in particular, have said that they're willing to provide. But President Putin is absolutely opposed to that, and he has said that explicitly over the last 48 hours. He's not going to put up with any British and French boots in Ukraine as a kind of security backstop. I don't see an easy way forward here. Having said that, though, having the U.S. trying to broker and trying to figure out where the common territory might be, I think is a good thing. Otherwise, this war goes on for a very long time. And I would just point out that in the last 48 hours, the Kursk salient, if I can put it that way, using World War II language, is about to be pinched off by the Russians. The Ukrainian forces in Kursk are about to be surrounded, and they're going to have to surrender. And that's another huge setback. Having said that, though, the largest drone strike on Moscow in this war was conducted just before these talks started. So on the one hand, I think both sides want some kind of peace on their own terms. On the other hand, they're willing to escalate in the short term. And it's not clear to me that the U.S. has the soft power resources to bring these guys to the table and come up with some kind of durable solution. When they're exhausted, when both sides are exhausted, we'll have peace. But until then, unfortunately, more bloodshed.
Olena, and this is something that at least a lot of experts in America keep speaking about, that there is this potential with Europe still backing military aid to Ukraine, that is having a counter effect on any attempts of peace. Is that a worry in Ukraine, that not just Russia, with the influence that United States has, or at least the closeness that we have seen, the recent closeness of Russia and United States with the leadership speaking to each other, United States could put pressure on the European allies of Ukraine as well?
Well, yes, but they will not bend to this pressure, because let's not twist the narrative here. It's not two sides fighting. If it was just so simple that two sides fighting, let's withdraw weapons and assistance from both of them and the war will stop. It's not like this, because there is one side which is victim, Ukraine, and there is aggressor, Russia. And Russia wants to keep going, wants to keep destroying Ukraine. And therefore Europe understands it. And this is why Europe is now trying to gain its so-called strategic autonomy, which they were promising for many years now without actually acting on it.
Very quickly, I was reading some statements made by not only the current Prime Minister of Britain, but also the former Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, where they were expecting the losses of the war to be paid by Russia in helping rebuild Ukraine and the other losses that the allies have incurred. Is that going to be a principal position, Olena, in these peace talks as well?
I'm sure that this will be one of the points that they will discuss, the 300 billion euro, which is in Europe. This money should go to rebuild Ukraine. Probably they will discuss some compromise. Part of this money will be going to rebuild, say, demilitarized zone, which is the currently Russia-occupied territory. So that's a matter of negotiation, but this money is on the table.
All right, Professor Latham, let me ask you then, in conclusion, this also seems at a time, possibly post-World War II, where America seems to be standing closer to Russia than with their European allies. Do you see a long-term impact of whatever is happening at this moment under President Donald Trump, not just on the relationship between the United States and Ukraine, but also between the United States and their European allies?
Yes, very much so. We had the period of bipolarity, the Cold War, two superpowers, the Soviet Union and the United States. And then we had the post-Cold War unipolar moment. The United States was the only superpower. That moment has passed. And now we're in an era of multipolarity and great power competition. China obviously is the big game changer in all of this, but also the rise of India as a consequential global player, and Turkey and Iran and Saudi Arabia. There's lots of these great powers that are involved in these conflicts. And Washington, under the Trump administration at least, has, it seems, decided that in this new multipolar era, the Europeans can look after Europe, the Saudis and the Gulf Cooperation Council states can look after the Persian Gulf. But the real challenge to American interests lies in the Indo-Pacific, which is why we saw President Trump not just cozying up to Putin, but cozying up to Modi recently as well, when Modi was in town in Washington. So it's a different game all of a sudden. The U.S. wants out of the European security business, as far as I can tell. It wants out of the Middle East. And it wants to focus on the Indo-Pacific and the Western Hemisphere as well, which is why we have all this talk about Greenland and Canada and Panama Canal and all the rest of that. This is not 1991 and it's not 1949. This is 2025. And however inelegantly this administration articulates its grand strategy, that's where its reflexes are.
Right. We are hoping, of course, for the sake of the people of Ukraine, those who are at the receiving end of this aggression, and also for this war which is going on for the last 3 years, that there is some semblance of peace, at least some ceasefire between both the countries, and these talks are fruitful at this moment. Thank you so much to both my guests for joining me on this discussion. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, Elon Musk has alleged the massive cyber attack that targeted his social media platform X, formerly known as Twitter, had digital traces originating from Ukraine. Mr. Musk, in an interview with Fox News, said, and I'm quoting him here, "We are not sure exactly what happened, but there was massive cyber attack to try to bring down the X system with IP addresses originating in the Ukraine area," unquote. The report explains more details.
Billionaire entrepreneur Elon Musk has alleged that the massive cyber attack that targeted his social media platform X had digital traces originating from Ukraine. On Monday, thousands of X users from across the globe reported widespread outages. According to Down Detector, a site that tracks service disruptions, nearly 40,000 users were unable to access X for extended periods. Musk has attributed the outages to a big cyber attack and said that X gets attacked every day. However, he's offered no evidence to support the claim that it was the work of a country or a large coordinated group. Cybersecurity experts caution that attributing an attack based on IP addresses alone is unreliable, as attackers can easily mask their locations. This is not the first time the X owner has blamed cyber attacks for outages on the platform. Last year, he attributed a similar outage to an attack. Many experts are saying This is amongst the longest X outages, and the pattern is consistent with a denial of service attack. Such an attack is usually an attempt to take a website offline by overwhelming it with internet traffic. With Vishal Vivek, Bureau Report, NDTV World.
Short break, stories from around the globe continue here. Stay tuned.
Look at you, the big winner. Not you. You use QuickBooks to send invoices and manage expenses, saving your business up to 8 hours a week, giving you more time to flourish. That's how you business differently. Intuit QuickBooks, the #1 recommended cloud accounting software.
Together, we are sight savers. Together, with local doctors and nurses, we are treating millions of people with diseases or conditions that cause sight loss. Together with parents and carers, we are helping families live free from the fear of children going blind from avoidable causes. And together with those who have left a gift in their will to sightsavers, we are doing all this and more. Since 1950, in over 30 countries, we've provided over 1.5 billion treatments to help prevent blindness and other conditions. But there's more to be done. Together, we can create a future where diseases that cause sight loss are eliminated from whole communities. Get your free guide to leaving a gift in your will by calling 0800 038 2283 or searching Sight Savers Legacy. Leave a gift in your will to Sight Savers. And together, we can create a future where no one goes blind from preventable causes.
When you paint by feeling, you can come home to a blooming good day. Change starts here. Dulux.
Sign up and start saving with Quidco today. Get cashback every time you shop on over 5,000 brands. It always pays to Quidco.
At Tesco Mobile, unlock even better phone deals with your Club Card. Get our 30 gig SIM for just £12.50 a month with Club Card prices, saving you £30. Better yet, your Club Card lets you unlock more than just great deals, like frozen prices and no EU roaming fees until the end of your contract. It pays to be connected. Search Tesco Mobile. Every little helps.
Whatever you need to ask about cancer, Macmillan's free support line is just a call away.
Hello, Macmillan.
Whether it's money...
Am I going to lose my job?
Getting on with life.
Can I still go abroad? Get insurance?
Or just need someone to listen.
How do I tell them?
Our specialist advisors are here to help as often as you need them. Whatever you need to ask, cancer, money, life, call us now on 0808 134 1000.
In the wake of a dramatic sell-off in United States stocks, European markets showed resilience on Tuesday after S&P 500 plunged nearly 3% on Monday. Investors' concerns over Donald Trump's tariffs sent shockwaves across global markets. Trump's remarks about transition period in the economy alongside fears of a potential recession spooked investors, especially in the tech sector. Tesla and Nvidia were both among the hardest hit, with shares tumbling sharply. While United States market reeled, European major indices opened largely unchanged. The FTSE 100 dropped slightly, while Germany's DAX and France's CAC 40 saw modest gains as traders looked for stability amidst the turbulence. Analysts warned the uncertainty surrounding Trump's trade policies and their potential to slow economic growth was keeping the investors on the edge. Despite this, Trump's economic advisors, including Kevin Hassett, attempted to calm nerves, insisting the long-term outlook remains strong. Yet the cloud of uncertainty looms large as markets brace for unprecedented fallout of the ongoing tariff wars between the United States and some other countries. Let me go across this moment and discuss this further with Mithali Nikore, global economist who is joining us at this moment. Mithali, thank you for speaking to us. Let me ask you this. In wake of the massive sell-off in United States stock, how do you explain the relative resilience that European markets have shown? Because even in India, things are not looking that green.
First of all, thanks a lot for having me on your program. And, we've been discussing this for a while, haven't we? What is actually going on? And, let's decode what's going on. So I think when you look at the mind of an investor today, they want to park their funds in markets which offer the maximum stability as opposed to the maximum returns. Typically when we look at the investor mindset, they are looking for diversification, and typically they are looking for, a few stocks, a few markets where they can get high returns, even if it's high risk, and complementing that with stability. But today, investors are flocking to stability. And that's why you see European markets are actually doing much better. Another set of markets that's doing much better is the Japanese markets, and yen-denominated stocks are actually doing quite well. And, they're getting in a massive inflow of global equity funds. On the other hand, wherever the risk rating is higher, equities are saying, let's exit these markets, and emerging economies are like an unfortunate, I would say like a, black sheep in this case. I mean, it's like, a scapegoat, because at the end of the day, emerging economies haven't actually done anything to cause this global economic uncertainty.
Mithali, let me, understand this from you, because while the United States President and his advisors call this a transition period in the economy, there are real fears of recession hitting United States shores. Is that something that the markets are evaluating at this moment because of the uncertainty, which has now opened up because of the tariff wars which are going on?
Absolutely. I mean, just think about it. If your country is importing a large proportion of its goods, and, these are coming from various economies, but of course, there is a dependence on China. Any kind of tariff is basically a tax, and that tax is going to be borne by the US consumers. So now, in a scenario where you don't know whether that tax is going to be applied or not applied, you can't actually tailor your supply chains accordingly. And as a result, it's causing a huge amount of uncertainty. If it was, said that, okay, this tariff is going to apply from this date and there's going to be no change, even then, your supply chains can be tailored accordingly, and you can find different sources for imports or for, the goods you need. But in this case, the uncertainty is what is driving the markets away from US-denominated stocks. I think it was a matter of time for us to see when would this bloodbath hit the US markets, and it's doing so now.
Can I also then understand from you what specific actions could policymakers take to stabilize investor confidence, in these turbulent times?
I think the most important action is something that we may not see, which is policy certainty, right? I mean, in this administration that we're seeing in the US, they seem to be thriving on policy uncertainty. So the one thing that, economies need to grow and economies and markets need to thrive is policy certainty. So I think at this point in time, it's very critical for US lawmakers and US policymakers to say, this is our policy on tariffs. Even if there's a policy saying there's going to be a tariff, there should at least be certainty that that's the policy that's going to be followed for the foreseeable future.
Mithali Nikore, thank you so much for speaking to us on this very, very important topic, which is impacting United States, Europe, India, across the globe, a ripple effect of what Donald Trump is doing at this moment. Moving on. Airtel has announced an agreement with Elon Musk's SpaceX to bring Starlink high-speed internet services to its consumers in India. This is the first agreement to be signed in India, which is subject to SpaceX receiving its own authorizations to sell Starlink in India. Airtel, in a statement, said the agreement will enable Airtel and SpaceX to further explore how Starlink could complement and expand Airtel's offerings, and how Airtel's expertise in the Indian market could complement SpaceX direct offerings to consumers and the businesses. Airtel and SpaceX will explore offering Starlink equipment in Airtel retail store, Starlink services via Airtel to business customers, and opportunities to connect communities, schools and health centers, among many others, in even the most rural parts of the country. The Indian telecom giant has said this comes after Prime Minister Modi met SpaceX chief Elon Musk last month during his historic visit to Washington, D.C. Now, BWT Alpine Formula One team has announced their academy driver, India's Kush Mani, as their test and reserve driver for the 2025 season. This makes him the only Alpine F1 reserve driver actively competing in Formula 2 Championship, where he will be racing for the Dam Lucas Oil. Mani's announcement marks the end of a 13-year hiatus for an Indian talent to be part of an F1 motorsporting team. That's all the time that we have at this moment. News and updates continue here from across the globe on India Global. Stay tuned.
This is an urgent appeal from UNICEF UK. Children in Gaza are in critical need of food, water and medicine, and we need your help. Families are still at risk. The services they rely on have been destroyed and their lives turned upside down. UNICEF is working non-stop, providing life-saving medical supplies, clean water and fuel to keep services running. But we can't do it without you. To find out how you can help, search UNICEF Gaza or text Gaza to 84915. £39 could provide a family with an emergency water and hygiene kit. Whatever you can afford, your vital gift will help UNICEF keep working with children and families in Gaza to get through this crisis. Search UNICEF Gaza online or text Gaza to 84915 and help bring hope for children caught in this devastating crisis. Thank you.
Who do I trust for business insurance?
If you need business insurance, join nearly 1 million customers who trust
Nescafe Frothy Coffees, because sometimes nothing tastes better than a no. With a creamy, long-lasting froth to get you ready for your next yes. Say yes to our best-tasting cappuccino. And now, get ready to mix things up with new Nescafe Kit Kat Latte.
Wouldn't life be so much easier if you could control your blinds at the touch of a button? With Ultra Smart Blinds from Appeal, there's no chains, cords or wiring, because these stylish blinds are driven by a rechargeable power pack. New Ultra Smart Blinds from Appeal, the intelligent solution for home shading.
At Cheerios, we know mornings can be challenging. So having a delicious breakfast that's high in fibre from oats, wheat and barley, that's a little win. Cheerios, little O's make little wins.
When I woke up, they said, Alyssa, you've got leukemia. We found out that the chemo wasn't working.
Cancer is still the biggest killer of children in the UK. But innovative new treatments could help beat cancer for more children like Alyssa.
I'm cancer-free now.
Text, call or search to give £3 a month and help build a new children's cancer centre at Great Ormond Street Hospital. So together we can save more lives.
This is NDTV. And you're watching NDTV 24/7.
Hello and welcome to the Southern View. I'm Veera Raghav. Lots lined up on the show, including the multiple probes into the gold smuggling case in Karnataka. But first, let's take you through the headlines we're tracking this hour. The NEP face-off intensifies as DMK protests against Union Minister Pradhan in Parliament. Stalin sends a strongly worded letter and Kharge creates a controversy with his remarks. DMK also sends a delegation to expand its delimitation offensive. Election Commission calls for suggestions from across parties to deal with allegations of fraud in voter lists, invites leaders from all parties to discuss the issue. Ukraine-US talks begin in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia to repair ties. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz